Eric Bowling in for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Let's get straight to our top story. Donald Trump's immigration plan. The Republican nominee announcing he'll deliver a major speech on illegal immigration set for Wednesday in Arizona. With an increasing number of questions about his stance on deportation, his campaign is delivering an outline for what may be ahead.
First, there is still no amnesty. Secondly, he's building that wall. That has been the centerpiece of his candidacy and his immigration vision from the beginning, and it has not changed 1 inch. Third, we have to end these sanctuary cities. He has said that if you want to be here legally, you have to apply to be here legally. We all learned in kindergarten to stand in line and wait our turn. And he is not talking about a deportation force, but he is talking about being fair and humane, but also being fair to the American workers who are competing for jobs, being fair to all of us who want secure borders and want the law enforced.
Joining us now from Dallas with reaction, Katrina Pearson, national spokesperson for the Trump campaign. Katrina, let's start with that immigration plan. I hear that. I hear no amnesty. I hear build the wall. Let's zone in on that deportation. No deportation force, but will he suggest the 11 or 12 million leave and come back?
Absolutely. That part of the policy has not changed, just not using those same words. Those words actually came from a journalist that sort of carried into Mr. Trump's policies. He absolutely wants illegal aliens to leave the country and get in line, as you heard Kellyanne Conway just state. We have to secure the border. This is not just about immigration. This is about human trafficking. This is about drug trafficking. These are things that affect American citizens on a daily basis. And we have to enforce current laws on the book. And we have ICE, Eric. That is the current deportation force that we have in the United States. And we have to give them the ability to do their job efficiently and effectively. Ending sanctuary cities is going to be key, and having a functional E-Verify system to make sure that Americans are getting the jobs in this country. By the time we complete those 4 stages of Mr. Trump's plan, there's not going to be 11 million people in this country illegally. And once we get to that point, Mr. Trump is going to lay out on Wednesday what he wants to do with those 11 million or less who are going to be here by that point.
Yeah, Katrina, you know what's interesting to me is President Obama has prided himself on deportations for the last 8 years. In fact, he calls himself the president who's deported more illegals than any other president. I think the number is almost 3 million deportations under President Obama. Yet the left will point the finger at Donald Trump, saying that's cruel.
Well, and that's because it's a Republican saying those things. And the one thing that you won't see under a President Trump that we currently see under President Obama and the Obama-Clinton administration is that he will not be releasing criminal aliens back into the population. That would be an automatic deportation. Mr. Trump wants to prioritize this process. And of course, we can't get all of this done in the first day of office. This is going to be a process, and Mr. Trump wants to outline his priorities. Because at the end of the day, in November, you have 2 choices. You have a candidate that wants to crack down on border security, get criminal illegal aliens out of the country, and focus on putting American families first. Or you can have Hillary Clinton, someone that in the first 100 days of her office wants to give amnesty, someone that's not even concerned with the borders in this country.
Katrina, last question on the immigration topic. Something that's an issue that's near and dear to this show right here, sanctuary cities. Now, will Mr. Trump recommend no sanctuary cities in the United States?
Oh, absolutely. We absolutely have to get rid of sanctuary cities. You know, I'm here in Texas, Eric, and this is something that we've been talking about for a very long time. It hurts American families, and Mr. Trump wants to make America safe again as well as great again, and that is going to be one of the most critical steps, is to end those sanctuary cities.
Okay, let's turn the topic to the Chicago tweets. Over the weekend, Dwayne Wade's cousin, Nikia Aldridge, was murdered. She was shot bringing her child after signing up for school. Mr. Trump tweeted, and he's getting a little bit of heat for the tweet, that the African, here's his tweet right here. Dwayne Wade's cousin was just shot and killed walking her baby in Chicago, but what I have been saying all along, African Americans will vote Trump. Now, the issue being that he tweeted that first and then tweeted condolences afterwards. So what is this all about? Is this a timing issue, or is this politics?
Well, it's a timing issue. And look, this is not the first time Mr. Trump has pointed out senseless violence in a community like Chicago. This has been an ongoing discussion that he's had for a very long time. And even though we have a lot of people in the media and the talking heads out there saying that Mr. Trump hasn't made an attempt to go into these communities, he went to that community in March. During the primary, Mr. Trump is very concerned with communities like Chicago and Baltimore and Maryland simply because they have no voice. And Mr. Trump is the first Republican candidate in a very long time to ask for a chance to be that voice for them. And that's what this was about.
Okay, so some of the pushback has been that Mr. Trump will make this outreach to the African-American community, the minority communities, Hispanic communities, but he'll do it in front of a white audience. Will that change going forward?
Well, that will absolutely change. And, you know, again, I'll push back on that because Mr. Trump made an attempt to go to Chicago. He spoke at the Black Chamber of Commerce in South Carolina. He's met with black pastors organizations. A black church just endorsed him last month. So this is not brand new to Mr. Trump. It's just brand new to the media. Okay. And the last topic I want to get to is Hannity Abedin announced today that she was leaving her husband, Anthony Weiner. Now, we know the history of Anthony Weiner. He's had trouble. He's been sexting. He's been caught sexting and whatnot. Now, Huma says they're breaking up. But Mr. Trump issued a statement on this. What is he saying? What's his stance on Hannity Abedin? Oh, well, he just wished her well, mainly, but his concern was asking the question, you know, is this the type of judgment Hillary Clinton would have to allow someone with this type of access, someone like Anthony Weiner in his statement? He was simply just asking the question, simply because we do know that Hannity Abedin was one of the individuals that had a dual role at the State Department as well as the Clinton Foundation that was handling some of this sensitive information, and he was very concerned about who else's hands that might have ended up in.
So is he concerned, was he concerned, and is he still concerned that going forward, Hannity Abedin having access to the security briefings that he as well is seeing, I guess, starting now?
Well, that's why he included the question mark. These are things that we don't know. We also know that thousands more emails have been surfaced, and we're going to find out a little bit more. But Hillary Clinton has been in hiding 266 days without a press conference, and she won't answer any of these questions. So these are just things we don't know, which is exactly why Mr. Trump included that question mark. All right,
Katrina, thank you very much. I'll leave it right there. Thank you. Next on the rundown, have Democratic politicians run America's largest cities into the ground with violence soaring in places like inner city Chicago? That debate when we come right back. Tonight, out of control violence in Chicago. The crisis gaining new attention after the senseless murder of Nakia Aldridge, the cousin of NBA star Dwayne Wade, over the weekend.
Her life was cut short by gunfire from two convicted felons who were both out on parole, one of whom was on his daily break from an electronic monitoring bracelet. This reprehensible act of violence is the example of why we need to change the way we treat habitual offenders in the city of Chicago. When will enough be enough?
So far this year, murders in Chicago are up an astounding 49% compared to the same period in 2015, intensifying criticism of the Democratic policies that have long governed that city. Joining us now with reaction from Chicago, Hermine Hartman, publisher of Indigo magazine, and from Washington, Crystal Wright, author of the book Con Job, How Democrats Gave Us Crime, Sanctuary Cities, Abortion Profiteering, and Racial Division. We'll start with you, Ms. Hartman. You heard Superintendent Johnson saying murders up 49, astoundingly, murders up 49% over 2015, which was a high year as well. And then we go on to talk about the murder, the senseless murder of Nakia Aldridge, Dwayne Wade's cousin. What's happening in Chicago?
We're out of control. We had 57 shootings in the last 3 days. We are absolutely out of control. I don't think, however, that we can blame it on a party. As you just heard the superintendent say, that was a young man who was out of jail, who probably should not have been out of jail, and was on a break, and he killed somebody. I don't think we can put it on a party. I think you have to put it on the person. Indeed, there is a system Hartman, here, or something here.
If you look what's going on in the minority communities in the inner cities, poverty is soaring. Wages are stagnant and falling, and victims, African Americans are overwhelmingly the victims of crime in these cities. And these cities, Chicago, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Newark, are primarily in Milwaukee. They're Democrat-run cities. In some instances, 50 years of Democrat run.
Well, I think that is an issue. I think we are giving our vote to the Democrats, and we're not leveraging our vote, asking for something. But I also think there's some media responsibility here. Donald Trump last week said that he talked to someone in the police department in Chicago and that they could solve this problem within a week, the crime problem in Chicago in a week. If that is true, that needs to come forth, not so much the person who said it, but what is the solution? What America needs is a Marshall Plan for the inner city, for Black America, to solve some of these problems. We need to stop analyzing these problems. We need some solutions to these problems.
Ms. Wright, do you agree? I mean, I guess Ms. Hartman's talking about a bigger plan, a more centrally, federally administered plan. I don't know. It looks like the Democrats have run some of these cities into the ground.
You know, Eric, I spent the bulk of last year writing my book, Con Job, and the last thing Black people need and America needs is another plan. What Black people need to do is stop voting for the Democrat Party, and I think Ms. Hartman, she alluded to that, but the reality is, as you point out, Chicago has a predominantly Black city like Baltimore. We've been seeing this black-on-black genocide for decades. This isn't anything new, and it's been raging under the first Black president. Did you know that in Baltimore, the last time Baltimore has had a Republican mayor was 1967? Same thing with Detroit. You know, we look at these cities, they're run by Democrats. Democrats, every 4 years, they take the Black vote for granted. They tell Blacks lies in exchange for votes. They don't fix the problems of poverty, of crime, high unemployment, low education rates, and Blacks just keep voting for them.
All right, so Ms. Hartman, let me pose the question that Crystal Wright just said. Do Democrats take the Black vote for granted?
Yes, and they take it for granted because we give them the vote. We don't leverage the vote. We don't get anything for the vote. We don't negotiate the vote. We don't discuss the vote.
Right, so
we just keep voting the same way over and over and over again.
Right, so this is not Donald Trump's problem. Donald Trump is making the case.
It's everybody's problem.
Well, let me finish.
It's everybody's problem.
Okay, right, but this is Black people's problems because we keep voting, not me, but majority of Blacks keep voting for Democrats. And like Donald Trump said, what do you have to lose? Everybody hops on Donald Trump for a tweet about the reality of what's going on in Chicago.
Well, let me say this. He said, what do you have to lose?
What is
but
sad,
he didn't say what you would gain.
Ms. Hartman,
so
you're going to gain.
Guys, can I jump in here, ladies, if I may? Let me just
all of these candidates are making promises, but they are not telling us what they would exactly do.
So stop. Hold on 1 second. Let me go through a couple of things, a couple of policies, and we can talk about them for a couple of minutes. The policies that Donald Trump has proposed: school choice. He's tough on crime. He's pro-law enforcement. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, is against school choice. She's in favor of keeping the status quo, protecting the teachers' unions, correct. And also, as far as she's not tough on crime, she's not pro-law enforcement. So, Mrs. Hartman, let me ask you, which one would be better for the African-American community? Donald Trump's policies or Hillary's?
I've not heard what the Trump plan is. I've heard Trump criticize. No, you haven't.
Eric just
it's not just Trump. No. What you heard, that's not what you heard. What you heard is Trump say that he spoke to someone in the police department in Chicago and that they could stop the crime within a week.
Right,
well, how would they stop it? What would they do? What's the solution?
He said he was going to be the pro-law enforcement president. He also said he's in favor of school choice.
You're not dealing with what I'm saying.
Allow me to give
because
Ms. Wright the final word.
Thank you, Eric. Eric, here's the reality, and I write about this at length in my book, Con Job. The Democrats' policies have created and they have exacerbated and perpetuated all the problems that have affected Blacks over the last half century. When you talk about crime, the Democrat Party wants to support welfare policies that reward Black women who are having babies out of wedlock at a rate of 75%. Disproportionate to our share of the population at 13%. Those are the policies that Democrats support when it comes that don't help Black Americans. They keep Black Americans trapped in poverty. And illegal immigration. Every time illegals come and flood into the country, guess who loses jobs?
Ladies, I'm going to say thank you very much. I hate to cut you off up against the hard break. Thank you very much. A quick footnote. If you want to learn more about what is driving the high murder rate in Chicago, check out the latest episode of the Contributing Factor podcast on BillO'Reilly.com or iTunes. That podcast currently has a 5-star rating on iTunes. But up next, NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick vows to keep sitting during the national anthem to protest police violence. But should this kind of dissent be taken off the field? We'll be right back with that. Album segment tonight, race relations in America. NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick igniting backlash after sitting in protest during the national anthem before a preseason game last week. Kaepernick defended his decision yesterday.
There are a lot of things that are going on that are unjust, people aren't being held accountable for, and that's something that needs to change. That's something that, this country stands for freedom, liberty, justice for all, and it's not happening for all right now. There's a lot of things that need to change. One specifically is police brutality. There's people being murdered unjustly and not being held accountable. Cops are getting paid leave for killing people. That's not right. That's not right by anyone's standards.
And Kaepernick was not done there, even lashing out at both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
You have Hillary, who's called black teens or black kids super predators. You have Donald Trump, who's openly racist. We have a presidential candidate who's deleted emails and done things illegally and is a presidential candidate. That doesn't make sense to me, because if that was any other person, you'd be in prison. So what is this country really standing for?
Kaepernick says he plans to keep sitting during the national anthem before upcoming NFL games. Joining us now with reaction, Attorney A. Scott Bolden. Now, I got to say, Attorney Bolden, you're going to say this guy should be thrown out of the NFL, right?
Well, no, I think he ought to be in politics, quite frankly. He had a little bit for everybody there. And I'm a big football fan, just like you are.
I'm a huge football fan. I'm also a free speech advocate. But I got to say, I think he went over the line here, Mr. Kaepernick. Here's a guy who signed a 6-year, $114 million contract. It's pretty good in America, is it not?
Yeah, but you see, when you say that, you link his income, you link his opportunity and his privilege to play in the NFL with his social consciousness, with his belief. And athletes have a consciousness, they have a belief, they are human beings as complex as you and I are, and we put them in this sports box. And we don't want them to do anything but play sports, perform, get paid, and provide us with enjoyment. And yet, every time an athlete has a social consciousness, who speaks out on politics or religion, such as Muhammad Ali or John Carlos or others, we have a problem with that. We have to stop having a problem with that.
I don't have a problem with him speaking out against Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or both of them. I have a problem of him sitting during the national anthem. Here, the reason why he's able to make $114 million in 6 years is because tens of thousands of military personnel have died protecting our freedoms that allow for that to happen.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And just as you have the right to disagree, you have a right to not like him sitting, even if you find it disrespectful, his manifestation of his protest and consciousness, those same military folks have earned him the right to manifest his protest in that manner. Now, granted, he can protest in any other manner, too, that would probably be less challenging. But when is it comfortable to protest? When is it ever comfortable to give your social consciousness and to make people uncomfortable? His manifestation is to make people like you uncomfortable. I'm
in favor of protests. I understand that we protect that free speech freedom and the right to protest. I understand that completely. It's just when a guy like this is so hypocritical. Now, here's a young man who was raised, here's the hypocrisy of it all. Kaepernick was raised by white parents, right? Isn't he a biracial black man raised by white parents?
So what?
Well, don't we have a biracial African-American president?
Maybe. Oh, yeah, absolutely. We certainly do.
Have we not had two African-American attorneys general?
Oh, does that cure every racial issue in America?
No,
because we have successful African
It's just that
Americans?
he's been given so much opportunity. It just seems like he's using the sitting during the national anthem to garner attention. I guess for an issue that he finds important, but it seems so hypocritical to me.
But that's his choice. You see, you want to connect his privilege to whether he should be protesting or how he should be protesting. Let me tell you something about African Americans and police violence. Class may separate us, but race ties us together. That is, many African American men, whether they're rich, middle class, or poor, have had bad experiences with the police. And does he lose his consciousness and what he cares about mostly, or his choice to even protest simply because he's got a multi-million-dollar contract and he's in the sports box?
Let me ask you
this.
I'm going to leave it. We don't have a lot of time.
That's it.
But how convenient is that he develops a social conscience the year after he signs a $114 million contract? I wonder where that was a year ago before he signed that deal.
I think a couple things. One, he's been on social media standing with Black Lives Matters and other. That's the first thing. Second of all, if he really wants to be credible with all of us on this stand, that he will walk the walk versus just sitting doing the national anthem. He will protest, and those manifestations of his protest should go beyond that.
I'm going to leave it right there, Mr. Bolton. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Donald Trump now being called a psychopath by some top Democrats. Will this sort of over-the-top personal attack backfire? Stay tuned. Line with Donald Trump. Over the weekend, the personal attacks against Trump intensified to an outrageous new level.
I mean, basically, we have a psychopath running for president. I mean, he meets the clinical definition, okay?
Wait a minute.
Hillary Clinton,
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Do you really think diagnosing people on air, and I assume you don't have a degree in psychology. Is that fair? I mean, we're jumping to conclusions here. I think this is what gets voters a little frustrated with this campaign.
Listen, the grandiose notion of self-worth, pathological lying, lack of empathy and remorse. So my point. So I think he does, right? I don't have a degree in psychology.
Harsh to be sure, but does the alarmist language mean Democrats are worried about Trump? Then they're letting on. Joining us now with reaction, Kristen Tate, contributor to The Hill and author of Government Gone Wild, along with Scott Levinson, head of the Advanced Group, a Democratic political consulting firm. Scott, I'll start with you. So the Democrats were all up in arms when people said on the right, said, hey, what about Hillary's health? Is there a question about Hillary's health? And they said, ooh, they're not doctors, and they're diagnosing her from television. Meanwhile, Pluff, a major Democrat operative, worked with the Clintons in the past, says Trump's a psychopath.
So, Eric, there are a lot of things we could debate in this campaign. We could debate whether he's an isolationist or a xenophobe for the wall. We could debate whether it's prejudice or racism for his association with David Duke. We could discuss whether he's sexist or misogynist.
Is it fair for Pluff to go ahead and call him a psychopath
whether it's sexist or misogynist because of what he's done right here on this station. We can debate whether he's a psychopath.
I'm asking a simple question. Is it fair for Pluff to make that assessment?
The real issue is he presidential?
You don't want to answer the
question.
He's
not presidential.
Kristen, let's go to you. Is it fair for Pluff, someone a high-level Democrat like that, so close to the Hillary camp, especially in light of the pushback that they gave the people on the right about diagnosing Hillary's health on air, should they be doing that?
Well, this is the Democrat Party of today, and you want to talk about a psychopath? Let's talk about Hillary Clinton, because all of the symptoms that he listed describe Hillary 100%.
Well,
he said a grandiose notion of self-worth. Hillary Clinton believes she deserves to be president just because of her last name. This is a woman who has not driven a car since 1996. She lectures the middle class while wearing $2,000.
This is actually prime.
Let's go through the list.
For the debate. If we're going to have a presidential campaign, maybe we should raise the level of discourse in this country. Maybe we should actually talk about
just 2 seconds ago, you didn't have any problem with Pluff saying what he said. Now you have a problem with Kristen saying exactly what Pluff said about.
In general, I said there are real issues to debate in this campaign, and I raised specifically what they were. The hyperbole doesn't help anybody, Eric. We should raise the level of debate.
So Pluff shouldn't have done what he has done.
In general, he doesn't have a medical degree.
Well, he shouldn't have done it, but if anyone is a psychopath, it's Hillary Clinton.
But again, this doesn't help.
I can't have a problem with David Pluff saying, so I have a little bit of problem of you diagnosing Hillary's.
But actually, why don't we have a little discussion about whether Donald Trump's behavior is in any way presidential. Because that's something that's
Because that's not what this topic. This segment is about the ratcheted up rhetoric by high-level Democrats. And my question to you, I'll start with you, Kristen, is it because they're worried that they haven't put Donald Trump away yet? In fact, his poll numbers, The Hill just pointed out, in a week, he's cut the lead that Hillary had in half.
Yeah, well, of course, this just shows they're kind of panicking here, right? But again, this is the Democrat Party of today. I don't know what happened to the party of JFK. The Democrat Party at this point is just run by incompetent thugs and special interests.
We'll
and
ask
you know,
Jeb
Eric,
Bush about
I
what
don't
happened to
love
the
Donald Trump, but the Democrat Party has become so dangerous that I personally have had to put aside my libertarian beliefs to support Trump because I want to do everything possible to keep Hillary out of office.
I'll pose the same question to you, Scott. Is the ratcheted up rhetoric from the Democrats because they're nervous they haven't put Donald Trump away?
There's no doubt about it. We should be afraid of a Donald Trump presidency. There's a lot to be afraid of. I'm afraid of a Donald Trump presidency, and I think Americans who are smart-minded and sane should be.
So call him a psychopath. That's the way you fight.
Again,
that's the way you push
hyperbole
back
doesn't help anybody in raising the discourse.
But you know what, Eric?
But the one thing we can agree on, he's not presidential. That's clear.
This is not going to help the Democrats at the end of the day. You know, where they're trying to get the 10% of undecided voters here. And when people hear these things thrown around like, oh, he's a psychopath, people start to roll their eyes and giggle. You know, it's just a lack of seriousness. And you're going to lose credibility with your arguments if you start getting this absurd with your attacks.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Kristen Scott, thank you very much. Good debate. Directly ahead, a new batch of Hillary Clinton emails is released, raising questions about whether special favors were done for big donors to the Clinton Foundation. Right back with that.
The #1 cable news show for 15 years and counting.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Eric Bolling, in for Bill O'Reilly. And in the Factor follow-up segment tonight, a new batch of emails creating fresh problems for Hillary Clinton. They show efforts by the head of the Clinton Foundation in 2010 to have the State Department give 3 executives from groups that were big foundation donors access to a high-profile lunch with China's president. Joining us now with more from Washington, David Bossie, the head of Citizens United, which obtained these emails through a Freedom of Information Act request. Now, Dave, you pushed really hard to get these. You had to fight for these in court. Tell us about what you found. What did you get?
Yeah, Eric, that's a great question because obviously it was not a FOIA request. Once we did the request, they were ignored, and we did about 40-plus FOIA requests over the last 2.5 years. This is a litigation strategy that we had to undertake because we knew the State Department would act as an arm of the Clinton administration, of the Clinton campaign. And so we have been dogged in our approach, as well as Judicial Watch. And I got to be honest with you, without the 2 organizations, I don't think the American people would know very much about what's going on at the foundation.
Did you find actual play, in other words, paid to play, or did you find that they were just simply trying to buy their way into sitting next to a Chinese diplomat at a lunch?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. We just received these documents just in the last week. So what we've been able to do is identify the donors that got the favors. What we haven't been able to do is do the analysis on the policy or what they may have requested yet.
Okay, so transparency, they prided themselves on transparency, even though our transparent numbers are in the tank. What is the role? Was there Clinton Foundation pushback on this? Are they trying to suppress any of this evidence?
Well, look, the suppression effort is the slow walk. We're going to get, Eric, I got to be honest with you, we have court-ordered document dumps from the State Department to us that go into 2017 and 2018. We are not, the American people are not going to know the relevant information before the election. And this is us starting 2.5 years ago.
Dave, I want to talk a little bit about Huma Abedin. What was her role? Can you clarify her role in both State Department and also Clinton Foundation?
Well, that's a big question in Washington. She has been for over 20 years one of Hillary Clinton's top lieutenants. Her and Cheryl Mills are really the 2 best-known top staffers. She worked at the White House. Then she went to work at the State Department as a top aide. And then she went to work at this Teneo company as well as the Clinton Foundation. And it's in that role where she was an employee of multiple organizations at the same time, did she really start to get herself into some trouble here, I think, with the actions taking part, people knowing that she's a State Department employee and working in a private
Dave, I want to talk about Teneo, however you pronounce it, I'm not even sure, but talk to us a little bit about that. It seems like it was almost a broker for Bill Clinton. In other words, he would do some arrangements to go speak somewhere. The money would flow into the Clinton Foundation and into the Clintons themselves. Are they all these arrangements? Are they all above board, on top of the table, and legal and ethical?
Yeah, you know, the Washington Post has written extensively on this company, and it's a company that was founded by a bunch of former Clinton employees, really because that's the way things are done in Washington, right? That's the reason that the American people are so upset, is that there's the pay for play, the revolving door of politics and then going out to make a lot of money. And that's really what Bill Clinton was into. Bill Clinton... Look, Bill and Hillary Clinton, let me just say this, need to have a joint press conference. They need to have a press conference to answer questions about Teneo, about the Clinton Foundation, and about where the State Department ended and where the foundation began, because nowhere are the American people getting all of the facts.
All right. You know when the biggest press conference of all time comes? On the debate stage coming up later on next month. So we're going to leave it right there. David Bossie, thank you very much.
Thanks.
When we come right back, was Beyonce's performance at the MTV Video Music Awards last night anti-police? Why some critics are in an uproar? That debate in a moment. Personal story segment tonight, an uproar over Beyonce before performing at last night's MTV Video Music Awards. The pop star raised eyebrows walking the red carpet with the mothers of 4 unarmed black men killed by police. But the bigger statement was saved for the stage, with part of her performance apparently alluding to people shot down by police.
I'm praying to catch you whispering. I'm praying you catch me listening. Catch you whispering. I'm praying you catch me. I'm praying to catch you whispering. I'm praying you catch me. I'm praying you catch me.
Some of Beyonce's critics were not amused by the symbolism.
I ran the largest and best police department in the world, the New York City Police Department, and I saved more black lives than any of those people you saw on stage by reducing crime. If you're going to do that, then you also should symbolize why the police officers are in those neighborhoods, and what are you going to do about that, and what are you doing about it?
Joining us now with reaction from Washington, Katie Pavlich, a Fox News contributor, and with us in studio, Kathy Aru, publisher of Catalina Magazine. Now, Kathy, you don't think Beyonce did anything wrong last night with that performance?
I don't think she did anything wrong. She was bringing about a social issue that's quite a big deal right now, gun violence in America. For Giuliani to shame her into bringing up such an important issue as a celebrity, saying that gun violence is running rampant in this country, it's a shame. It's a shame what Giuliani said. Okay. I think the shame is with him.
Katie, some are saying it wasn't just gun violence she was pointing out, the fact that she walked the red carpet with mothers of African Americans who were killed by police. She was actually pointing out a Black Lives Matter theory, hat tip to the Black Lives Matter.
Which she has a history of doing. And can we please stop with this bogus, unarmed narrative? One of the mothers who was on the red carpet with Beyonce, and it's, fine that they're there, but her son was Michael Brown, and Michael Brown was killed because he tried to take possession of Officer Darren Wilson's handgun, and that's why he was shot and killed. So let's not act like this is an unarmed conversation. Second, Beyonce is perpetuating this myth that young black men are being gunned down, hunted in the streets by white police officers. And that is not only false. There's a Harvard study that was released this year by an African-American professor showing that police officers are actually just as likely to use lethal force on black suspects as they are on white suspects. And for Beyonce to continue to perpetuate this myth is not only false, but it's also harmful to community policing inside the communities that need the police the most, that are crime-ridden, and whose communities can be destroyed by criminals.
Okay, Kathy, your thoughts. You're saying it's straight gun violence, and Katie points out that a lot of these acts that we were watching had specifics about police violence.
Trayvon Martin's mother was there. That had nothing to do with police violence. That wasn't a police shooting down an armed.
It was a self-defense case.
But it has nothing to do with the Blue Lives Matter. It has to do with the Black Lives Matter movement.
And it has nothing to do with gun violence either. It
had to do with gun violence. It was gun violence. I mean,
it was a self-defense case.
That's a whole different story. But she was bringing to issue the gun violence in America. And what Giuliani's interpreting is what everybody's interpreting, I think, is a little bit beyond what she was trying to make a statement. She was making a statement that innocent people are being shot.
Other than the fact that when you have a strong law enforcement community, the communities, especially for African Americans and minorities, is a safer place.
From what I saw, it was angels on a stage being shot, innocent people being shot. That was the symbolism from on the stage. That's as simple as it was. For others to be reading so much into it, like Rudy Giuliani, he sounded like an angry grandpa putting down Beyonce, which we all love, the Queen Bee, and she won 8 awards. She made history last night. So for angry grandpa to be putting down Beyonce is so silly. She was bringing about innocent people being murdered in America.
This isn't the first time Beyonce has used the stage to point fingers at, and other times law enforcement. You remember the Super Bowl halftime act? You remember that one?
It is. Yes, I remember that one. It's incredible that the opposition in this debate is calling Rudy Giuliani, who actually took the crime rate down in New York City and actually saved black lives, calling him an angry grandfather, even though he's the one who actually has real solutions to solving crime in these neighborhoods that need it the most, while praising Beyonce for perpetuating a myth that not only is detrimental to community policing, but those who live in the areas that need the police the most. That is amazing to me. Beyonce has a choice here. She can either be part of the solution or part of the problem. Right now, she's part of the problem and continuing to perpetuate this myth that young black men are being hunted down in the streets. The number one cause of death among young black men 18 to 34 is homicide, and it's young black men killing each other. It's not the police who are racking up those statistics. So she has a choice here, and she's on the wrong side of this.
Let me give you, Kathy, last word.
Nothing wrong with supporting innocent lives and supporting the mothers of those who have lost their loved ones. Nothing wrong with that.
I'm going to leave it right there. Kathy, Katie, thank you very much. Up ahead, mass chaos at Los Angeles Airport last night over a false alarm following a similar incident in New York this month. Are we unprepared to face the threats to our security? In the back of the book segment tonight, the bedlam at Los Angeles Airport. Last night, chaos engulfed LAX following reports of an active shooter. It was all thankfully a false alarm, but it caused travelers to flee terminals in a panic, some even running onto the tarmac, and halted all flights to and from the airport. Last night's incident comes on the heels of a similar situation at New York's JFK Airport earlier this month, following false reports of gunfire. The incident's raising questions about serious gaps in security and whether we're properly prepared to deal with potential threats. Joining us now with reaction, Michael Balboni, the former director of Homeland Security for New York State. Michael, the two in the same month, two airports literally halted to almost a pure halt over false reports of gunfire. What's going on?
So what it demonstrates is that we are a nation, after all the attacks that have happened across Europe and the 3 attacks in the United States recently, that we are a nation of concern, of fear. And so when you have this happen, you're going to get this response. What's causing people concern, of course, is the reaction of folks who were there in the TSA, folks who are there in a security perspective, as to whether or not they were part of the response or part of the panic.
Yeah, and what were they in these cases?
In some of the eyewitness accounts say that there were officers who were running away saying, run, run. You know, what you need there is you need that calm, you need that center. And frankly, people have the expectation that they're going to be told where to go because these folks have more information than the general public.
Michael, we spend hundreds of billions of dollars on security, on preparing for this, and now we have two of the busiest airports in the world shutting down because false reports of shots fired. Are we wasting our money?
A lot of the questions that are raised is, so what's the training? The key to any type of security system is to refresh it, to not just have it static. And that's what we need to do. We also need to include the public in this, so the public has an awareness. And one of the things we're talking about is social media. Is there a role? Could we monitor social media? Could we pick up the tweets or words that are out there and perhaps provide ground truth?
Why does the whole airport go panic? Why is there not communication by the TSA and the police and the security in these airports saying, hey, there's nothing here, calm people down? Do we have TSA and police running away from a threat?
So here's what happened. You had 100 calls received in 70 minutes by the Port Authority. and yet it was no specific threat. You were chasing a ghost, and it was multiple facilities. So the problem is, what do you tell people? If you could stop at people and say there is no threat.
Well, why don't they? Why didn't they? Sure, they could. What about an announcement? What about an announcement over you can locate a passenger? Can't you say there's no threat here? Calm down.
So here's the challenge: most active shooters are done within 5 minutes. It happens so fast. And so the question is, if you don't know specifically where the problem is, how do you respond? How do you make sure that it's not a problem?
Okay, so earlier in the day, I believe there was a man in a Zorro costume that was arrested at LAX. Yeah. Do you think there was heightened tension among even the security and law enforcement all day because of that?
Unfortunately, yes. The question becomes, what's the passengers? What's the flying public think about this? And how do you give them a reassurance that, yes, we are more secure than they think they are, and contextualize the threat? You and I both know that the chance of you being in a terrorist threat, a terrorist event.
Michael, you were there in 9/11. We heard about first responders running towards the threat.
Right, exactly.
We're not hearing that in these cases,
that's what you're supposed to do. And that's why the investigations in JFK and LAX going on right now, where they're going to take a look at who responded and how. And if there was a problem where they ran away and they didn't contribute to the response, then there's going to be hell to pay.
Well, hell to pay how?
And you're going to do either, you may let people go, you may rethink the entire security system. You know,
I'm going to tell you, I'm in an airport and I see a cop running this way.
You're going to go with him.
I'm running the same direction he is.
That's the problem. And everybody assumes that they know more than everybody else. That may not actually be the case, particularly when there's a non-specific threat like this that's out there.
Quickly, is this a money issue? What is this? We need to spend more money?
Issue. It's a training issue.
Training equals money, right?
Yes, it sure does.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And before we go tonight, a quick reminder from Bill that his upcoming book, Killing the Rising Sun, will be out September 13th. Get your pre-orders in now. And if you sign up for a BillO'Reilly.com premium membership, you'll get that book free. Also, I have a really, really good idea. If you need a good book to kick back this Labor Day weekend, you can check out that bestseller right there, Wake Up America. It's pretty good. I wrote it. And that's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Eric Bolling in for Bill O'Reilly. Please remember, the spin stops right here because we're looking out for you.
See under a President Trump that we currently see under President Obama and the Obama-Clinton administration is that he will not be releasing criminal aliens back into the population. That would be an automatic deportation. Mr. Trump wants to prioritize this process. And of course, we can't get all of this done in the first day of office. This is going to be a process, and Mr. Trump wants to outline his priorities. Because at the end of the day, in November, you have two choices. You have a candidate that wants to crack down on border security, get criminal illegal aliens out of the country, and focus on putting American families first. Or you can have Hillary Clinton, someone that in the first 100 days of her office wants to give amnesty, someone that's not even concerned with the borders in this country.
Katrina, last question on the immigration topic. Something that's an issue that's near and dear to this show right here, sanctuary cities. Now, will Mr. Trump recommend no sanctuary cities in the United States?
Oh, absolutely. We absolutely have to get rid of sanctuary cities. You know, I'm here in Texas, Eric, and this is something that we've been talking about for a very long time. It hurts American families, and Mr. Trump wants to make America safe again as well as great again, and that is going to be one of the most critical steps, is to end those sanctuary cities.
Okay, let's turn the topic to the Chicago tweets. Over the weekend, Dwayne Wade's cousin, Nikia Aldridge, was murdered. She was shot, bringing her child after signing up for school. Mr. Trump tweeted, and he's getting a little bit of heat for the tweet, that the African, here's his tweet right here. Dwayne Wade's cousin was just shot and killed walking her baby in Chicago, but what I have been saying all along, African Americans will vote Trump. Now, the issue being that he tweeted that first and then tweeted condolences afterwards. So what is this all about? Is this a timing issue, or is this politics?
Well, it's a timing issue. And look, this is not the first time Mr. Trump has pointed out senseless violence in a community like Chicago. This has been an ongoing discussion that he's had for a very long time. And even though we have a lot of people in the media and the talking heads out there saying that Mr. Trump hasn't made an attempt to go into these communities, he went to that community in March during the primary. Mr. Trump is very concerned with communities like Chicago and Baltimore and Maryland simply because they have no voice. And Mr. Trump is the first Republican candidate in a very long time to ask for a chance to be that voice for them. And that's what this was about.
Okay, so some of the pushback has been that Mr. Trump will make this outreach to the African American community, the minority communities, Hispanic communities, but he'll do it in front of a white audience. Will that change going forward?
Well, that will absolutely change. And, again, I'll push back on that because Mr. Trump made an attempt to go to Chicago. He spoke at the Black Chamber of Commerce in South Carolina. He's met with Black pastors' organizations. A Black church just endorsed him last month. So this is not brand new to Mr. Trump. It's just brand new to the media. Okay, and the last topic I want to get to is Hannity Abedin announced today that she was leaving her husband, Anthony Weiner. Now, we know the history of Anthony Weiner. He's had trouble. He's been sexting. He's been caught sexting and whatnot. Now, Huma says they're breaking up. But Mr. Trump issued a statement on this. What is he saying? What's his stance on Hannity Abedin? Oh, well, he just wished her well, mainly, but his concern was asking the question, is this the type of judgment Hillary Clinton would have to allow someone with this type of access, someone like Anthony Weiner in his statement? He was simply just asking the question, simply because we do know that Hannity Abedin was one of the individuals that had a dual role at the State Department as well as the Clinton Foundation that was handling some of this sensitive information, and he was very concerned about who else's hands that might have ended up in.
So is he concerned, was he concerned, and is he still concerned that going forward, Hannity Abedin having access to the security briefings that he as well is seeing, I guess, starting now?
Well, that's why he included the question mark. These are things that we don't know. We also are journalists that sort of carried into Mr. Trump's policies. He absolutely wants illegal aliens to leave the country and get in line, as you heard Kellyanne Conway just state. We have to secure the border. This is not just about immigration. This is about human trafficking. This is about drug trafficking. These are things that affect American citizens on a daily basis. And we have to enforce current laws on the book. And we have ICE, Eric. That is the current deportation force that we have in the United States. And we have to give them the ability to do their job efficiently and effectively. Ending sanctuary cities is going to be key, and having a functional E-Verify system to make sure that Americans are getting the jobs in this country. By the time we complete those 4 stages of Mr. Trump's plan, there's not going to be 11 million people in this country illegally. And once we get to that point, Mr. Trump is going to lay out on Wednesday what he wants to do with those 11 million or less who are going to be here by that point.
Yeah, Katrina, what's interesting to me is President Obama has prided himself on deportations for the last 8 years. In fact, he calls himself the president who's deported more illegals than any other president. I think the number is almost 3 million deportations under President Obama. Yet the left will point the finger at Donald Trump, saying that's cruel.
Well, and that's because it's a Republican saying those things. And the one thing that you won't...
Eric Bowling in for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Let's get straight to our top story. Donald Trump's immigration plan. The Republican nominee announcing he'll deliver a major speech on illegal immigration set for Wednesday in Arizona. With an increasing number of questions about his stance on deportation, his campaign is delivering an outline for what may be ahead.
First, there is still no amnesty. Secondly, he's building that wall. That has been the centerpiece of his candidacy and his immigration vision from the beginning, and it has not changed 1 inch. Third, we have to end these sanctuary cities. He has said that if you want to be here legally, you have to apply to be here legally. We all learned in kindergarten to stand in line and wait our turn. And he is not talking about a deportation force, but he is talking about being fair and humane, but also being fair to the American workers who are competing for jobs, being fair to all of us who want secure borders and want the law enforced.
Joining us now from Dallas with reaction, Katrina Pearson, national spokesperson for the Trump campaign. Katrina, let's start with that immigration plan. I hear that. I hear no amnesty. I hear build the wall. Let's zone in on that deportation. No deportation force, but will he suggest the 11 or 12 million leave and come back?
Absolutely. That part of the policy has not changed, just not using those same words. Those words actually came from